This week on the Pro Wrestling Podcast, the DiscoveryTimeWarner Merger and how that's going to affect AEW going forward. Young Rock acknowledges our tribal chief, Roman Reigns. Good old JR gets all red-assed about stars jumping ship from AEW to the WWE. And Chris Jericho gives his unfiltered thoughts on Cody Rhodes in the WWE. I'm your host, Seth Grimes, and this is the Pro Wrestling Podcast. Hey, yo. Welcome to the show. Welcome, everybody. Another week in this wild world of professional wrestling that we're all in love with, that we're all passionate about. A little bit allergenic today. I woke up with my cat rubbing his face in my face. I don't normally get allergies from my cat, like a lot of people do, but if you get the cat hair directly, rubbing up into your nose, it'll fuck your shit up for a while. So bear with me if I sound extra nasally. I know I'm already nasally, but you work with what God gave you. But now I got to work with what the cat gave me too. But we're going to move forward because we have a show to do. And we got a lot to talk about this week. Starting off with the Discovery-TimeWarner Media merger is well underway, and high-level executives are getting fired left and right over at Time Warner. And of course, all of this is causing people to be rightfully concerned about what this means for the future of AEW and their deal with Time Warner. Traditionally, these types of mergers have not been too friendly to pro wrestling content, right, WCW? Check out Dave Meltzer's thoughts on how he thinks this might affect AEW going forward.
Well, I mean, there's the merger is happening and it's taking effect, and it's, the new people are being put in place, and there's fear of massive layoffs because of duplication. And one of the things is that Discovery, which is going to be running this, that they are historically not a company that looks to spend a lot of money. So how this all goes down, I mean, it's anyone's guess. And what this means as far as AEW goes is anyone's guess.
So according to Meltzer, it's anybody's guess, right? Who knows? Well, I have a guess, but before I get to that, I want to play you just a couple more clips here to shed some further light on this subject. The first clip I'm going to play you is from Grace Randolph. She's a Hollywood insider who has all the dirt and scoops on all the movings and shakings of things that go on inside of Hollywood. The next clip I'm going to play you right after that is a clip of the actual Discovery CEO, the man who is taking over Time Warner as the head of everything, Mr. David Zaslav, and he's going to give his thoughts on this whole thing. Check out these two clips.
All the creative heads are still in place at Warner Brothers. Casey Bloys at HBO and HBO Max, definitely safe. Guys churning out amazing content. Channing Dungey at Warner Brothers Television, also safe. Churning out great content for HBO Max and beyond. Some of Netflix's best shows come from Warner Brothers Television. And Toby Emmerich is still there at Warner Brothers Films, but I do not believe that he is safe.
Where is media, and what are you going to do with this great new shiny object you have?
Well, first, it is a little bit surreal. This is a fantastic collection of assets. I've been at Discovery for 16 years, and we've gone from a cable business, a U.S. cable business, to the leader internationally. We added sports, we added free-to-air, and we've always owned our IP. To put that together now at a time of transition, with the great assets that John Stanky and his team have, HBO, really in a leadership position in terms of quality and content. Warner Brothers Television, over almost 400 shows, one of the biggest producers, makers of content in the world. Warner Brothers Motion Picture. and CNN. Putting that all together, it's really formidable, and it is exciting. We've been spending a lot of time thinking about what could we be, because more and more when consumers are thinking about where they want to go, they don't want to go to 8 or 9 different places, and they're not going to pay for multiple different options. And we have, when this company comes together, this is something that John and I spent a lot of time talking about, over the broadest menu of entertainment, from kids to adults to teenagers, the greatest movie library, TV library, and we have more local content than anybody in the world, motion pictures. So we have this great entertainment menu, which should keep people in the home, from the kids to the grandparents. Why would they go anywhere else?
So yeah, lots of moving and shaking. Lots of things are going down with this merger. Zaslav has gone in and he's just started cutting heads of different departments over at Time Warner. Some jobs he's just cutting out outright. You know, Time Warner is very sectionalized. They're very, you're the head of this department, you're the head of this department, you're the head of that department. Zaslav's coming in and he's like, fuck all you guys, I'm the head of every department now. So that's where you're starting to see a lot of these cuts, right? These are just positions that Zaslav, wanting to be hands-on, is going to directly oversee all of these departments rather than just having people in charge. The other thing is there's going to be a lot happening with the streaming service. Right now, there's the CNN Plus, and then there's Discovery Plus. I don't know. Is everything a plus? Disney Plus, all of that? Is that the thing now? And then there's HBO Max. So all of these streaming services are going to get merged into one giant streaming service is what appears to be happening here. Or at least a bundle, at the very least. Kind of like Disney offers the bundle with Hulu and ESPN. I think we're certainly going to see something similar to that, if not just merged all together. But there's no indication in any of this that there's an issue with the TV content. The head of Time Warner TV has not been removed. And doesn't sound like there's any plans to remove them. According to Zaslav, he's acquiring a great TV library and a great movie library. You know, he's not going to come in like Time Warner owns DC, for example, and they own the Harry Potter franchise. So they're not going to come in and just cut that shit. Maybe they branch it off into its own company or something. That's possible. Like Disney does with Star Wars or Marvel, right? Marvel Studios is its own separate branch. It's not Disney Studios doing the Marvel movies, but they own it. So we can see that with like a DC or something. But by all accounts, it sounds like Zaslav is excited to take over the current product. He's happy with the overall entertainment content that Time Warner has right now. He's happy with the movies. He's happy with the TV. He's said flat out, we're buying into a really great content library. So there's zero indication at this time that there's an intent to just start going in and cutting shows that don't fit the brand. I would even go as far as to say, Zaslav had also said that he likes the wide variety of content that they have. He likes that they got the sports, and he likes that they got the movies, and he likes that they got all the good TV shows, and they want to have that wide variety. They're not coming in saying, we want, like TNT, we are drama. He's not coming in and saying, all of our content has to be comedy now, or all of our content has to be drama. They did that for a little bit. TBS was the comedy channel for a little bit, with fucking all the sitcoms and everything like that. And TNT was drama. We know drama. And there's no indication that there's going to be any kind of change in branding, change in lineups, anything like that. Everything that's happening as far as cutting and reconfiguring within the merger is just to simplify the process, to streamline things, to put Zaslav in charge of all, to put him as the king above all, that kind of oversees all projects, and to kind of get rid of some redundancy, some people, that are coming over from Discovery. If there's a guy that does a certain thing in Discovery, they don't need that guy in Time Warner, right? We can get rid of that guy. But as of now, there's been zero indication that there's any intent to cut any of the content that already exists, or change the branding, or change any of that. So I think from that perspective, as of now, at least they're safe. So then it becomes, so I don't think wrestling it's not going to be one of those things where, wrestling doesn't fit what we're trying to do. Because also a couple things have changed since then. Pro wrestling is much more respected, much more normalized in culture. Back when WCW ended, wrestling was the Attitude Era. So it was tits and ass and bra and panties matches and fucking choppy pee-pee, and all of that stuff was happening on TV. So wrestling was very white trash, Jerry Springer lowbrow shit. And AEW's got to be careful because they're not as family friendly as WWE. They do a lot of blood. They do the pizza cutters. They have to be careful. People getting set on fire and shit. They got to be careful about that, because that could raise some eyebrows amongst new management in Time Warner Discovery, right? But for the most part, wrestling is something that's ideally, it's much more accepted. And ideally, if your stated goal was to oversee a brand that is well-rounded, that is the best in every aspect of everything that they do. We're the best in sports. We're the best in drama. We're the best in comedy. We're the best in movies. If that's your stated goal, then obviously pro wrestling fits into that. Not just on the sports side of things, because it is a quasi-sport still, even though it's entertainment. But it's just, if it's not going to hurt you as far as turning away advertisers or getting lots of complaints or just really being an eyesore on your brand. So if it's not hurting your brand in that way, and it's not costing you a shit ton of money, which it doesn't, these TV contracts are very cheap. The AEW TV contract is very cheap. They're not getting paid what WWE is getting paid. Are they going to be looking for a raise? Yes. And will they probably get one? Yes, because, as I've mentioned before, there's a high demand for live, brand new weekly content, because it's one of the only, that's why sports gets such a premium. That's why WWE has been able to get such a premium, is because most people don't watch TV live anymore. There's no reason to. And everything's on demand now. You can find everything online that you need. But wrestling, football, basketball, baseball, all of these things are things that you still have to tune in and watch live. You don't have to. You can DVR it or something. But for the most part, these are live-oriented type shows. So, because of that, they will draw a premium, and ratings are becoming more and more irrelevant. WWE has gotten a bigger contract every single time that they've re-upped, and the ratings have gone down and down and down. The ratings didn't go up between contracts. The last time they re-signed their mega fucking billion-dollar contract, the ratings were the worst that they ever were. And now they're even worse than that. And it's partly because the show sucks, yes. But it's also just because people don't watch TV like that anymore. These media companies know this, okay? They understand this, and they still want that show that's going to draw a live viewer. And they know that the ratings are going to continue to go down because people just aren't watching TV. And it doesn't mean that they're not watching the show. I think there's still a lot of misconception with people out there that, AEW drew under 1 million viewers again this week, so people aren't watching the show. I don't watch it on TV. I watch it online. I find it. I seek it out. I download it. Okay? So I am an untracked viewer. They don't know that I'm watching. There's YouTube. People are watching through YouTube, through the clips and the highlights. People are paying attention to the content, but people do it in different ways. Even with this podcast, not everybody's going to listen to it on Sunday when it comes out. Not everybody's going to listen to the full podcast. People are going to maybe just watch the clips on YouTube, and that's sufficient. But people are consuming my content still. Those are still viewers of my content. So it's a lot harder to track down. It's a lot harder to quantify. It's not as cut and dry as, AEW has under 1 million viewers. So I think because of the nature of their type of product, and I think because wrestling is so much more accepted nowadays, and I think because AEW is not that expensive, even with a significant raise when their TV deal comes up, if they're able to get it from Discovery Time Warner, it's still not going to set them back. These channels are paying... TV shows are like movies nowadays, you know? Gone are the days where TV shows are like... If you notice, reality shows are starting to phase out. That was really cheap content, you know? AEW is going to be a cheap content like that. But most TV shows have movie quality production nowadays with movie quality actors. So there's shows out there that have $1 million per episode budgets. And so putting that in perspective, AEW is cheap content. And it's wrestling, and people love wrestling, and it's got big stars on it, and people love big stars, and it's quasi-sports, and Tony Khan has credibility being from a sports background, so when he's going into these meetings with these guys, he's not Joey wrestling guy, you know? He is sports manager, and this is a sports brand to a certain extent. So honestly, just kind of wrap things up here, so I'm not boring you guys to death. I don't see this as a problem for AEW. I think they might have to clean up their content a little bit just to stay off the radar. Because when you're buddies with your boss, like Tony was when he first came out, when he signed, basically he was able to get on TV because he's buddies with the guy that signed his deal, right? But they've been able to stay there and get renewed preemptively, and that's another thing. Like, AEW's contract was renewed, and they bought another fucking show, or another 2 shows even, with the Battle of the Belts, before their original contract was even up. So if that's not, and that was not Tony Khan's buddy that re-signed him. That was the guy that replaced Tony Khan's buddy. So take that as a sign too. Like, AEW, it's not the same situation that it was back when WCW ended. Wrestling was white trash product. WCW was dying in the ratings in an era where there wasn't YouTube, and there wasn't streaming, and there wasn't internet downloads. There was, you watched it on TV, and that was it. And the creative was dog shit. And TNT was trying to stick to a brand, and TNT owned WCW, so it was a something on their books. It wasn't just like a reality show TV budget. It was they owned the whole company. They were responsible for everything, contracts, all of it. The TNT is not responsible for any AEW contracts. They don't got to worry about any of that shit. It's not a hassle for them. It's just a show, a cheap show that draws good ratings in the demographic that everybody looks for. So I don't think they're going anywhere, but we will continue to monitor the situation because obviously anything could happen. Nobody's got a crystal ball. Nobody knows for sure. But there's just nothing here that indicates AEW's in any danger at all. And I'll eat my sock off of my foot, like I had said before. I had said that when Cody, if Cody's not in AEW, I'll eat my sock off of my foot. I'll do the same. If Time Warner Discovery ends up kicking AEW off of the show because they just don't want it, I'll eat my fucking sock off my foot. They'll be fine. They're going to be fine, guys. Just fucking don't worry about it. Rock, the TV show following Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's rise up through his wrestling family and into the pro wrestling spotlight. acknowledged Rock's cousin Roman Reigns this week on a recent episode and made quite the news headlines. Check out this clip.
This skin makes me feel fat. I miss you, my Peter. For every Samoan drop is a violent love letter to you, High Chief.
Somebody Samoan drop me! Just once! Acknowledge me!
By the way, that's my cousin Joe, who would later go by Roman Reigns, future WWE champion.
Come on, Dewey, let's wrestle!
No. The world's not ready. A match that big can only happen at WrestleMania.
It's going to be you, Samoan, dropping somebody on TV pretty soon.
Yeah, I think that's a clear as day hint that Rock is at least entertaining the idea to face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. And he should. If they're able to pull it off, especially because WrestleMania is going to be in Hollywood next year, it just makes perfect sense. If you're going to have a Hollywood WrestleMania, it's going to be Hollywood themed, similar to WrestleMania 21 when WrestleMania went Hollywood, which was one of my all-time favorite WrestleManias. If you're not familiar with WrestleMania 21, highly recommend you go back and watch that. Just like the whole marketing of it with all the videos of the wrestlers acting out movie scenes. I really hope they actually bring that back. You know, it's been many years since WrestleMania 21, so it's not, you know, what's old is new again, right? They can bring that back and they could do it with all the modern wrestlers and all the modern movies. It would be sweet, you know, seeing like Becky Lynch playing Black Widow or something like that. It'd be fucking dope, right? You have to do The Rock and Roman Reigns at that show. Who else? If Roman wasn't beat by Lesnar, and we're not just going to keep doing Lesnar versus Roman every year, then somebody's got to make it to WrestleMania next year to challenge Roman Reigns. You don't take the belt off Roman before WrestleMania. He's on too much of a streak at this point. You could do, because he's the undisputed universal WWE heavyweight platinum championship holder. What are they calling that nowadays? It's the undisputed, it's the WWE undisputed heavyweight champ. They just merged the two titles together, right? Like literally like the two names. I don't fucking know. Did you guys see, sorry, there's pictures of like a gold championship that's out there, like a gold strap, like it's still the same belt, but it's got a gold strap instead of the blue or the black. Kind of looked dope. I don't know if it was real or just some kind of Photoshop gimmick, but probably the latter, as we haven't seen it yet. But, you know, you could do a thing where they split those belts again, because Cody is obviously on his way up to challenge for a world title too, right? So you take one of those belts and you spin it off and you give it to Cody. Somehow, some way, by hook or by crook, where maybe he doesn't get a nice, clean victory over Roman Reigns. Maybe he does. You could tell. I think Roman could lose to Cody and still stay strong for The Rock. But what I'm getting at here is the idea would be to keep Roman as strong as possible for The Rock. But clearly Cody's on a trajectory for a championship too, so they're going to have to figure that out. And I think the best way to do that is just split the belts, keep Roman a champion still, but let the other one branch off and let Cody run with that on a different show. That's the best way to go about it. But either way, I think, and this has to be a clear sign, right? This is a teaser. This is an Easter egg. This isn't just a troll job, I don't think. I don't think Rock would have this in his show and have that kind of language, that kind of teaser, if Rock never intended to ever wrestle Roman. And Rock keeps his ear to the streets. Rock pays attention to what's going on. He pays attention to what people are saying. If you don't think that Rock is very familiar with the fact that people are anticipating The Rock to face Roman Reigns, you're insane. Rock knows this. And Rock loves wrestling. He really does. I don't think it's a chore for him. I don't think, like, look, the money that he's the highest paid actor in Hollywood. I don't know if he's been dethroned by that yet. But I mean, at least at one point he was. I assume he still is. He does not need to come back and wrestle. And there's no amount of money that Vince McMahon can pay The Rock for a WrestleMania match that's going to be worth it to him compared to what he does for the movies. Because it's not just a one-day thing. People just think he can just show up, and no, he's got to get prepared. He's got to get in ring shape. He's got to chunk out time out of his schedule to go hit the ring, to train, to take bumps. You know, before The Rock went in and wrestled Cena, he was working with McGillicuddy, right? He was working with Curtis Axel. So he's got to fit time into his schedule to do that. He's got to at least show up on Raw or SmackDown or whatever a couple times to help hype the match. And you know, it's a time obligation, and there's no amount of money that Vince can pay him that's going to match that time obligation compared to doing a movie or a TV show or something. So in all honesty, it would be a passion project for The Rock. And I do believe he's passionate about the WWE. And I also think Rock is cognizant of his brand. He's a brand. He does TV shows. He does movies. He's got his fucking energy drink line. He's got the XFL. He's got all kinds of things. His production company. He's a full-on brand. And when you're a full-on brand, you don't just do one thing. You know, you can't just be, I'm just a movie actor. You know, he's got that song that he did with Tech Nine, a fucking rap song. Rock knows what he's doing. He's a fucking mogul. He's an entrepreneur. He's a businessman. And he loves to diversify. He loves to be a brand. He likes to go out there and do different things. So I think staying an active wrestler to a certain extent, like he can just bust out a wrestling match at WrestleMania in the main event whenever he wants to because he's The Rock, is good for his brand. It's good for his image. As long as he's able to do it physically, and he's getting older, he's going to run out of opportunities to do this. This could be the last. And if it is the last, and it probably should be because it's his cousin, it's WrestleMania, it's Hollywood, it's for a title shot probably. All those things, I think this is going to be a hard one for The Rock to pass up just because of the passion, just because he wants to add that to his branding, that he's still a high-level main event WrestleMania WWE superstar. I think we're heading straight for a Rock versus Roman Reigns match, and I think this clip from the Young Rock show absolutely shows that that's exactly what we're looking at. Unless something happens, you know, schedules permitting, you know, if Rock gets the call to play Doctor Doom in the Marvel movies or something, which he won't, that's ridiculous. But if he did, of course he'd have to say fuck WrestleMania, right? So he'll have to fit it into a schedule and make it work, but I think he will, and I think that's exactly what we're gonna see. And if you haven't watched Young Rock, it's a fun watch, dude. It's fictionalized somewhat. You know, they stretch things and kind of only for the purpose of entertainment, really. I don't know that they flat out make shit up. Like, this was probably made up, but it was good entertainment, right? And there were probably plenty of times where The Rock was sitting around with his little cousin Joe, and little cousin Joe was trying to get all hyphy and wrestle with him and shit. I mean, Roman has said in an interview before that him and his cousins, the Usos, used to wrestle around all the time, and especially when Rikishi was out on the road, they'd really just fucking go wild in the house and stuff. So all signs point to it, and I hope we get it, and I'll leave it there for now. Watch Young Rock. Great show, fun to watch, and I really fucking hope we get Rock Roman WrestleMania 39 Hollywood. Chris Jericho was on the Busted Open podcast this week and was asked flat out what his thoughts were on Cody Rhodes now being in the WWE. Check out this clip.
Do this real quick, jumping over to wrestling, because I'm genuinely interested in your answer. The whole Cody situation. What did you make of it? What did you think of it? You shocked by it?
Yeah, I mean, I know that he's on the show today. I just heard, which is great. I mean, I was honestly disappointed that he left, but I get it. I've done it many times myself. You know this. We discussed the reinvention of Jericho many times. I mean, I left WWE in 2017 for basically the same reason why Cody left AEW, from what I understand, is that he just didn't think he was getting the, I don't know if it's the spotlight or respect or whatever the word being, but you can kind of see the writing on the wall. So obviously Cody now is bigger than he's ever been, just by changing companies. And obviously they did a great job in putting him over at WrestleMania and bringing him in at the highest of levels. And now it's up to Cody to do the dirty work, shall we say, and continue that momentum and get that job done. I think Cody's going to fit in there very good. We're going to miss him in AEW, but quite frankly, it was a shock when he left. And a week later, it's almost like he never even existed. That's just the way wrestling goes.
Yeah, I was disappointed too. I really was. I really thought Cody was kind of a lifer with AEW. But I mean, in hindsight now, looking at him in WWE, he's a perfect fit. The whole presentation, like, he was WWE in AEW. And I think that's why he was getting those boos, right? Because he was a WWE guy in AEW. I think WWE has done a perfect job with him. I don't think they could really do anything better with him at this point. They've pushed him to the moon. They've kept his entire package that he has. He's got a good storyline going forward. He's getting mic time, promo time. He's getting time to put on great matches. I just think, and which is funny because we always knock WWE for their shitty booking, but this is a clear, perfect example that, at least up until now, that they know how to book somebody the right way. They know how to do good booking. They just don't. Are they lazy? Is it just, who cares? Not important? Or are we just, is it just early yet? Shiny new toy syndrome, and Cody will be booked like shit soon enough. I think a little bit of both. I think they have a lot invested in Cody over at WWE. So my initial thoughts were that he would eventually end up back down to the mid card again. For one, that's where he was in AEW. He was not a top guy in AEW. He was moving down the card rapidly. He really was. The other part of that is that, that's just WWE's way. They're good with you for a little bit, but then they drop the ball. But I've kind of changed my tune on that, just knowing what kind of investment they're putting into Cody Rhodes. Like when Vince and Bruce and Nick Khan, of all people, fly to your house to meet you, or at least to your city to meet you, they're rolling out the red carpet. So they're not going to drop the ball with Cody as far as moving him down the mid card. But eventually we're going to run into some pretty shitty booking. We're going to run into that 50-50 stuff and the countouts and disqualifications and just dumb shit that WWE always does. But they've done good with Cody so far. It is sad to see him leaving AEW. I get where Chris is coming from. But Chris is right. They haven't missed a beat without him. That sounds like a little bit of sour grapes, but it's also true, right? AEW has not missed a fucking step since Cody left. They're not lesser. They're not weakened. You barely miss Cody. People didn't like Cody on AEW. I think people are forgetting that already. People booed the shit out of him every time he came out. Nobody wanted to see him on AEW. So he's gone and nobody misses him. I'm sad because I really thought that AEW was his baby, that he was building that brand, that he was ride or die with it, even though Tony had taken most control over it. Cody still had a lot of say. He was doing their he was doing their philanthropy, he was doing their charity work. He was bringing up a lot of the young guys. He was working with a lot of them. Many of them talked about how they, Cody helped them, how they would talk with Cody backstage. So he really took on that Triple H role in a lot of ways, I think. So whatever happened there, is what it is. We are where we are now. And, Cody's doing a great job. AEW's moving forward, rolling without him. All of it's great. And this is good for the business. Good old Red Ass JR was hosting a Ask JR Anything on Grilling JR this week with Paul Bromwell. Conrad Thompson MIA again this week, presumably laying on a beach somewhere like a fucking whale. And in this Ask JR Anything, JR was asked, with Cody Rhodes leaving AEW for WWE, does he think that other people will follow? Does he foresee other people jumping ship from AEW to the WWE? Check out this clip.
With Cody at WWE now, do you feel anyone else on the AEW roster might follow?
You never know, Paul. I mean, I'm not going to name any names because how would I know? And if I did know names, why would I tell this slapdick? Or tell you for that matter? I just wouldn't do it. It's breaching trust. I have heard no conversations, but look, let's be honest about it. If cash and creative are in place better in one company than it is in another, then you got people traveling. So I can't imagine that somewhere down the road, others will follow the same trail.
I love me a good Red Ass JR. He's so touchy. He's so easily offended. This is why Vince always fucked with him, because JR always sold it, right? This is why he was constantly messed with on TV and shit without him knowing about it, because his general red ass reaction is fucking hilarious. It really is. He gets so pissy. He has like zero sense of humor, right? And he always finds things to get mad about. You know, somebody will ask a question and he'll just think that the guy's trying to dig for dirt, and he'll go down this big fucking rant about how we're just digging for dirt and fucking, you know, JR said this, and he'll just invent these stories to get mad about. And it's so funny. And Bromwell fucks with him too on the show. It's good shit. It's funny. It's funny to get JR all heated because it makes for good content. But yeah, I mean, it is good for the business that people jump ship back and forth. It's look at what it did for WWE to have Cody go over to the WWE. They have done a phenomenal job with Cody. They're doing everything right so far. It's been great business for WWE. You know, eventually I think Cody, will probably blend in. Maybe not. Maybe he is a made man top star for life now. He's on his Hall of Fame run right now. That could very well be too. But it's great for business. Remember back in the 90s, everybody jumping back and forth. It was literally the best part of the Monday Night Wars, the Attitude Era. It was people jumping ship back and forth. The mystery debuts. It creates this air of must watch, and you never know what's going to happen next, and all of that shit. And I think AEW relies a little too heavy on that. They're very heavy on the surprises. Almost every other week, it's like, oh, we got a big surprise coming. And they do way too much. They got to quit that shit, right? Not just the every week is the major surprise, but also just having surprise. You don't need to bring in new people every single week. Like, apparently AEW is working under a talent budget, which must be $1 gazillion. I don't know. Tony Khan's taking a profit of $25 off of everything that he's making and then just pushing the rest out to a talent budget. I really don't know. But overall, it's very healthy for the business. And AEW was built on being able to bring in the big stars that WWE dropped the ball on. And this whole shit about AEW using WWE wash-ups, nobody said that when Cody went over to WWE, right? It's not an AEW wash-up. And maybe that's because Cody started there, but you get my point, right? This whole crap, like, wrestlers are independent contractors. They are free to come and go as they please. So when their contract is up, they're not, unless they were a guy that was built from the ground up, like a Braun Breaker, for example, that then jumped ship, then you could say, yeah, they're using WWE's wash-ups. But I mean, if it's a guy like a Samoa Joe that was in Ring of Honor and he was in TNA and then he was in NXT and then he was in WWE, now he's in AEW and Ring of Honor again, he's not a WWE wash-up because he left WWE. He's a journeyman. He's a professional wrestler. He's an independent contractor. So that whole notion that companies take wash-ups just because one guy leads a company to the other is horseshit. It's great for the business. It's going to do great business for WWE, too. WWE's been boring as shit for years. They have been running off their fan base in droves. They have their diehards. Some of you are listening. You love WWE and everything they do, and it's great, right? They can do no wrong. But when they're able to inject their boring-ass, stale-ass, bullshit-ass brands with a great talent like a Cody Rhodes, that it freshens things up. It's alive. Like I said, AEW relies on it a little too much, and it takes away from that freshness. Now it's almost expected. You go a month without a new talent, and you're like, what the fuck, Tony? Where's our new mystery surprise guy? And that's kind of what AEW's become. And that's fine if he's got the money and the budget, and I believe he does. I don't think he's going to run his company broke. But if he's got it in his budget to sign a bajillion talents and he's adding new shows like Ring of Honor, then, you know, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. He's building a company. You know, Vince McMahon ran out and he brought in a lot of talent that were wash-ups from all the territory promotions, right? If they weren't territories at the time, he would have been poaching them from the other main brand. He would have been, if he was AEW, he would have been taking wash-ups from WWE. He was purging the territory of top talent. So it's happened throughout wrestling. And, you know, in the early 80s, Vince McMahon built the WWF on brand new talent coming in constantly that were from other companies. So it's the same thing with AEW. They're building a brand. They're building their roster. WWE, more established, aren't going to need to bring in 25 different people every month. But when they do bring people in, it's going to pop the show. Whether it's a megastar like Cody Rhodes, which he has been and has proven himself to be, or it's and he wasn't in AEW. He was falling down the card. And he wasn't falling down the card because Tony didn't want to push him. He was falling down the card because the fans were sick of seeing him, hearing him. They were sick of the shtick. He probably could have refreshed himself by turning heel, but he refused to do it. So he kept pushing himself down the card because fans started to care less. Now he's a new shiny toy over in WWE. Now he's got new people to work with. So now it's dope again. It's fresh again. And that's why it's so good for the wrestling business when guys jump ship. Whether it's to AEW or to WWE, it is always going to be cool. It's always going to freshen up the brand. And it's always going to be good for the business no matter what. And there's no dirt there. The wrestlers are independent contractors. They're going to go to the highest bidder, always. Wrestlers are always going to go with where the money's at, what the best move is for their career. Not even just the money, but to freshen them up. If they're mid-card in AEW, maybe they see that they could maybe have a new opportunity over in WWE, much like Cody Rhodes has. So it'll be interesting to see over the months and years as we continue our journey here through the AEW era and the WWE era. We'll see how long AEW lasts and what kind of talent is going to go back and forth. You know, your MJFs, your Jade Cargills, your Wardlows. These are all obvious people. It's been said that WWE wants Sammy Guevara. I think that would be a good choice for WWE. It's just good. It's good for the business. AEW's YouTube channel's been doing a lot of really great sidebar content. And one of the most awesome things on the YouTube channel is this show hosted by RJ City called Hey EW instead of AEW. And RJ City is just fucking fantastic. And every single one of these shows is pure gold. But this one in particular that dropped this week might just take the cake. This episode featuring Eddie Kingston. Check out this clip.
Okay, next question.
Oh, wow, okay.
You're often considered to be the best talker in wrestling.
Yeah, I don't
Many
like
people
that.
say that.
I don't like that.
Everyone says that your interviews are very emotional, honest, and raw. What is the key to faking that?
That was good. That's a good little swerve.
How do you turn it on? Because I've seen you
man, I
backstage. You're like, let's get this over with, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
you go,
I tell that.
ta-da.
Yeah, I go, ta-da.
What-
This is my therapy. This is what I do. I use it as therapy. Instead of hitting people like you, I do that.
Could I make a small suggestion?
Not at all.
An actual
Not
therapist.
at all. I said not at all.
An actual
I said
therapist
not
would
at all.
be a great
Why
idea.
are we doing this? I'm gonna talk over him. He's gonna hate it.
That's
we
like
have to redo this.
That's like coming here and saying, "Oh, I have clogged arteries. Wrestling is my heart surgeon." Now, get a heart surgeon. You understand what I'm saying? You could still wrestle and go to therapy. You've got the time.
Eddie Kingston, RJ City, like I said, RJ, all of these videos that he's been doing, the Hey EW, he also did the Road to Revolution skits with a lot of the people. I don't know if RJ is signed, or if he's just kind of on a per appearance type gimmick where he's just being brought in to do these shows, but I think AEW should lock up RJ City because, I mean, I had heard of him before, and I know he's done a lot of podcasts, and I know he's done the coffee and the underwear thing. I didn't watch a lot of that, but I'm aware of it. But now that I'm seeing all this content, it's just showing me what kind of talent that RJ is. And Eddie Kingston, too. Eddie Kingston's fucking great in this. You have to go watch this the whole interview. The whole show. It's a comedy show. RJ fucks with everybody that's on there, and they fuck back. And this is such a good dynamic because RJ is such a fucking annoying nerd on this, and Eddie Kingston, he's hard as fuck. So when RJ's pushing those buttons on Eddie, it just creates this just pure content gold is the only way that you can really describe it, right? And if you go through the comments and you read all the comments underneath this clip, everybody's digging what they're doing on the AEW YouTube. Everybody's excited about all this RJ City content. He's putting out great work. Go out of your way. If you're listening to clips, I'm going to link it below. But it's on YouTube. It's on AEW's YouTube channel under Hey EW with Eddie Kingston. Go out of your way to watch this, and you'll probably watch a couple other ones too after you see it. Eddie Kingston's funny as fuck. He's got great comedy chops. He's got great promos. His stories are always some of the most entertaining that AEW has put on throughout the history of the company. Eddie Kingston is a fucking gem. He's a fucking pack of Newports, but he's a gem. And he's one of the best signings that AEW's ever had, to be quite frank. And I like that he did a video game. He did the AEW Games channel with Evil Uno. So it's cool that Eddie's open to this, because his character wouldn't lead you to believe they'd be cool doing all this weirdo side content stuff. But it's great. It's all great shit. He's having a lot of fun with it, and he's being Eddie Kingston, and it's just the same as he is in the ring, he is outside the ring. Fantastic stuff. Go out of your way to check it out. And the AEW games too with the Evil Uno, plug them both, because Eddie Kingston's getting out there and doing some fun stuff out on the internet. So if you were to come up with a pro wrestling odd couple of current pro wrestlers riding in a car together, just traveling down the road, hitting up the indies together, who would you put together? What would be your wrestling odd couple? Put it down in the comments if you're watching on YouTube here. I'd like to see what your fun pro wrestling odd couple might be, to imagine them riding in a car together, traveling down the road. But when I was listening to the AEW Unrestricted podcast this week with Aubrey Edwards and Alex Abrahantes, Tony Schiavone was busy clipping Lois's toenails or playing video games or something. Who knows? They were interviewing Wheeler Yuta, who's just had a nice, fantastic little run for himself lately. The ROH Pure Champion, Wheeler Yuta, that is. And he talked about riding down the road on the indies with, wait for it, Nick Gage. That's right. Nick fucking Gage and babyface sweetheart Wheeler Yuta. Didn't have that one on my list. That's fucking blew my mind. So check out this clip.
Did you travel the road a bit with Nick Gage?
Yes, I did. A lot.
Okay, what the hell was that like? Because he's an interesting person.
Yeah, Nick Gage is incredible. He is one of the most real, genuine human beings I've ever met. But there was a point on the independents where twice a month we would go to Ohio and then back to Massachusetts and then home. But yeah, so we would do that loop all the time, and just the life experience that guy has, being like a young person who hasn't lived the life that he's lived. It was so interesting just to like hear different things about like different things he's done in his life. But yeah, obviously get into the bank stuff and talk to him about that. But he's just such an incredible person. But I do remember the first time I rode with him, and then we get about 30 minutes away from the building, and he wanted to like amp himself up. He wanted to get hyped up. I was like, what do you do to get hyped up? And I look over and he's watching videos of people confessing to murders.
Whoa.
What the hell?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a lot to say about it other than that just fucking blew my mind when I heard it. Like, I had to share it with you guys because just picturing Wheeler Yuta rolling with Nick Gage, just traveling the fucking indies. And then Nick Gage fucking listening to serial killer confessions to get into character. Oh my God, dude. There's just so much gold in this little clip here. I had to share it with you. It's great. But I highly recommend going back and listening to that full interview with Wheeler. Wheeler's a star on the rise. He is absolutely proving himself to be a great talent that has a bright, bright future. Another guy that WWE passed on. You know, everybody said too, like even people that worked for WWE that were like shocked that they passed on a guy like Wheeler Yuta. You know, a sweet, handsome baby face, white meat baby face, if you've ever seen one in your whole fucking life, other than his match with Moxley all bloodied up and stuff. But that's good. You want that sweet baby face to get toughened up. You know, that's part of his story. That's part of his journey. You know, they beat the fuck out of him, both Danielson and Moxley. But, you know, he's a tough kid, and he's the ROH Pure Champion now. A great choice for that, to be frank. You know, I like that the ROH titles are at least being used on AEW content, because I think they're still trying to figure out exactly what the new form of ROH is going to look like as far as a show, and you know when it's going to start running shows again, and when it's if or how it's going to be on TV or YouTube or whatever. But I like that they're keeping those belts alive and actually having sanctioned ROH matches on AEW TV. I hope it doesn't stay like that. I don't want those brands to be merged. I don't want it to be a fluid roster where you can just be on both shows like Samoa Joe is currently. I want it to be a hard divide. It should be a hard divide. But at least for now, while they're getting shit squared away, I don't mind them keeping ROH alive through AEW content. Even though Samoa Joe got the fucking bone when he won the TV title and then just got attacked right away by that fucking basketball monster. He was with the Monstars, wasn't he? He's from Space Jam. He was like the green guy. He was in the suit. Anyway, bad joke. But Wheeler Yuta, man, star on the rise. Go check out this interview with AEW Unrestricted. Don't got a lot else to say about it other than just, yeah, man, Nick Gage, Wheeler Yuta, just fucking buddy traveling down the road together. Just my brain broke on that one. I can barely picture it, but thought I'd bring it to you guys and have a good chuckle at it, and use the opportunity to put over Wheeler Yuta and all the great work that he's been doing as well. So, mission accomplished. Moving on. Thank you guys so much for checking out the show. All of you that stuck with me all the way to the end. You know I like my end people that will listen all the way through and endure a full hour with me breaking down all these podcasts. I love that shit. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for the growth. I've been seeing a lot of growth lately in the podcast, on the YouTube. The clips are blowing up. That's making the podcast blow up. I'm seeing growth, and it's making me happy. I'm still a very small level guy here, just a fucking wrestling fan yelling at a microphone. So for the people that are with me, that are along for this ride, I can't thank you enough. You have no idea what it means to me, because I do this every week because I love it, and I really hope that other people appreciate it too. So I'm trying to do a service, bring all the podcast highlights, all the newsworthy notes and clips and things that you might have missed throughout the week, because there's always such an abundance of wrestling content, right? But it always makes my job fun. You know, I always start a week fresh with who knows what the fuck's gonna happen. You know, a lot of YouTubers and podcasters and shit will always plan out their content and be like, well, I'm gonna talk about this then, and then next week I'm gonna do this. And I have no fucking idea when I wake up on a Monday morning what my podcast is going to look like at the end of the week. I don't know if somebody's going to get arrested, if somebody's going to die, if somebody's going to get hired to AEW, somebody's going to get fired from WWE. You never know. So always a fun journey. I love that you guys are along the ride with me. You can stay along the ride with me by continuing to listen to the podcast feed, if that's where you're listening at. Spotify, Google, wherever the fuck you listen to podcasts, just keep listening to it there. If you're a YouTube person, you can also just throw me in your podcast app, just in case. If you're on the road or something, you never know. But also on YouTube, having fun on YouTube. Throw me a comment in the comments if you have something to say about something that I talked about here, whether you're on the full show. I also do the clips. Check those out. I'm also on Rumble if you're into alternative media. The alt media, brother. You can find me on Rumble. I'm on TikTok. I do the little shorty shorts. I do clips of the clips, and I'll put those out on TikTok and YouTube Shorts, so you can find those around too. Follow me. So all that's going to be at Seth Grimes Media. You can follow me on Twitter at Seth Grimes Media as well. Like me on Facebook at Seth Grimes Media. What else we got? We got the pro wrestling inspired NFTs for my brand Cryptomania NFTs. You can find those on OpenSea right now. Just search up Cryptomania NFTs. I also got a book. I wrote a book about going to the gathering of the Juggalos. It's a novel. It's not it's partially real life, partially fiction. You be the judge. You can check that out on Audible, Amazon, Kindle, wherever you like to listen to books, if you so choose. Lots of fun. That's all the plugs I got. If you're still listening, I'm sorry. I was a little plug happy today. But I appreciate y'all hanging with me. Peace, love, and pizza. My name is Seth Grimes, and this is the Pro Wrestling Podcast. That was a pretty good one. I like that.
I hate juggalos. I fucking hate them. I say all this with a grain of salt because for a good part of my own life, I proudly identified as a juggalo. You should come to the gathering with me. Nah, man. I'm not into all that whoop-whoop shit anymore. I'll pay for your ticket. I got fired today. Get the fuck out! Still got room for me? Spike, slow the fuck down! Cops!
Fuck your sleep. Fuck your sleep. Fuck your sleep.
The savages started closing in with their tiki torches and war paint. Shit. Run! You guys got a dead body here already? Even the aliens were throwing shade. It was pure panic and intense horror. There was a guy I saw got chopped in half. I had nothing left to go back to. You alive? Yep. The Gathering. A bold journey into the belly of the Juggalo underworld.